Casey Gray here, and you are watching The Conscious Builder. Sometimes I act without thinking. You've probably heard of paralysis by analysis. I definitely do not suffer from that. I just have a thought and I start running with it. And do we have to go backwards sometimes? Yes, but we're always moving forward. So a few weeks ago, I had some white space in my calendar, and white space in the calendar is not necessarily a good thing for me. And it happened to be on a Sunday, and usually Sundays are family day, and we didn't really have anything planned. We were just gonna hang out and enjoy each other. But it was a really beautiful day, so we wanted to get outside, and as the day went on, I ended up in the garage and tinkering around. And before you knew it, I was ripping the van apart. So here we are. Didn't really plan anything. I just said, I came out and I was like, I want to change the floor. I had some leftover cork floor. I always planned on renovating it, but I didn't have a plan yet. So I'll just see what I can do. Maybe we can rip out the floor, but what I found out is just like a house, typically the floor goes in first. So we ended up with a blank canvas. And like I said, I don't really have a plan. The plan was always to renovate the van. But I was kind of waiting, my little guy is 6 years old, we go camping, we definitely put this thing to use in the summer. And when you see the Sullivan and his cousins jumping around in it, I wasn't too concerned about redoing it right away, because then I'd be like, don't do that, don't do this. So either case, here we are. What we're gonna do, I don't know, that's what we're here. This is why we're looking for suggestions. I have some ideas on what I'd like to see in here, and obviously we want to make sure that it's in line with the company vision, sustainable products and healthy products, and maybe showcase some cool little gadgets. In either case, I do use this for camping, and it is kind of a mobile office as well. Like I said, I'm driving it all the time, other than right now when we're in the winter. So I was smart enough to not rip apart the front anyways, just because if the warm weather gets here and we don't have this done, I can still drive it. More like a work van at that point. So one thing for sure, if we start at the front, one thing I definitely want to do, and I've already contacted Ron, who's my mechanic for this. These seats are actually Vanagon seats, so they're from the next version of van. I'm not a fan of them because they sit too high, and I am, I guess, maybe taller than the people when they first started designing these. But either way, these would be sitting a little bit higher. So I've asked them to find me some original seats, which apparently are not as comfortable. That's why people switch to these, maybe because of the lumbar support, but they do sit lower. So I am going to do that. I've already reached out to them about that, and it likely need to be reupholstered. But other than that, I don't really have any plans for the front. Actually, I shouldn't say that. The other thing I'm thinking, but once again, we're looking for ideas. This frame here can actually be cut out. So in the newer vans, this does not exist, and this chair can swivel around so that when you're parked, you have an extra seat facing the back. I would like to do that. I've already checked with Ron and said, hey, can I cut this out? Am I going to affect the integrity of the van? And he said, no, I do it all the time. Perfect. What used to be here, why you see a hole here, it wasn't there when I bought the van, but originally this conversion for this van, this was originally a work van actually, and it was blue before, when it was originally built. And when it was converted to the Westfalia with the conversion kit, there would have been a sink here. So this would have been considered a conversion without a propane kit. So without the propane kit, you don't have the fridge and you don't have the cooktop. So you still have a sink here, which was not there when I got the van because they never used it, so they took it out. But instead of the stove and the fridge, there was an extra seat. So that's what was over in that corner. You can see I had a seatbelt installed because we have all little cousins, so I needed at least 3 seatbelts back here when we load this thing up. So there's a seat there, there's a folding table against the wall there, and then there was the bench here, which would fold out into the bed, and then there was a cabinet along this side here. Pretty simple. It kind of, when I got into it, I ended up having to take the belly pan off of the fan. We'll show you all the parts sitting over there. But here we are, like I said. So what do I want now? Definitely need spots for, at least 5 seatbelts. But I use this, I want something functional, right? And, I don't, being camping and having used it for the last 2 years, I know that I'm not going to cook inside. So I don't need a stove inside. I actually have a tent that attaches onto the side of this and comes out, so you kind of have like an extended outdoor space when we're set up for camping. So I always do my cooking out in that anyways, smells and so forth. If I get up early, if I'm camping with Sullivan and I wake up earlier, I can hop out and make coffee. I don't have to worry about waking them up by setting everything up inside or having to fold the bed up. So I'm not gonna cook in there. Even putting maybe a fridge, I'd be open to that, but there's some really good coolers that can be plugged in. I'm happy to just kind of have a cooler. We do have a cooler that's not as good, but there's some ones that use a lot less energy, so you can easily power them off a solar panel. I do have a solar panel kind of hook up to this right now, but I'll probably make something a little bit nicer. But I'm thinking more seating, right? If we're gonna have like a mobile showroom, maybe a nice spot to have a little meeting, right? We show up to a show and maybe there's a nice little bench in the middle, some curved seats, kind of like a limousine maybe, and if this seat folds around, we have a nice spot there, maybe a table that can fold out or be stored somewhere and sit in the middle. Not really sure. Like I said, we're looking for ideas. I definitely want to showcase some woodwork, so those panels along the side will come off. I'm definitely going to take those off, make sure there's some insulation behind there, mostly for sound when you're driving. I'm not necessarily worried about heating or cooling this thing. There is no heat in this thing actually, and there's obviously no air conditioner, and I'm not going to put one in. So I'll redo that, redo the blinds, color, open to that. But keep in mind, if you're sending us ideas, we do have 6-year-olds jumping around and younger actually all over this, so we do need to make sure that I'm not like, hey, don't put your feet on there. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. But other than that, I'd like to use the old hardware if we can, if it makes sense. If you look over here, this would have been the seat that was in the corner that I pointed out behind the driver's seat. So there's a cushion that would have went on here. This was the shelf at the back. So there's a little shelf up top over the back seat. I'll show you that. And then this would have been the bed that folds up. The hardware is still all great. So if we can use the hardware, we will use that. And over here would have been the back cabinet. Kind of shoved everything back here. But this would have been the cabinet along that back wall. And that's one of the Westfalia conversions, that there's usually a cabinet and it blocks one of the windows. I'm kind of leaning away from that. If I can have maybe a bigger bed back there and maybe a little less storage, I'd be okay with that. Also, that gives us the ability to open the curtain and then you can see the Conscious Builder logo. I couldn't really do that with the cabinet there because I could never access that curtain. And it's funny, if you look in these old cabinets, these were actually designed because, back in the 70s and 60s, men would always wear dress shirts. So there's actually like room for hangers in there. That's what that cabinet was for. It was for like dress shirts. Times have changed. So we can't pop it up right now, but this pops towards the front, which is actually not the right, if you are a van enthusiast, this is not the right year of design for this year of van. So this is 77, but this is actually an earlier rooftop. I don't know what year that would have been, but the one that was originally designed for this year would actually be a larger pop-up. So this is a roof rack here. The roof rack would actually be in the front and it would pop up reverse, and then there's a larger bed up top. That would have been nice actually. I think I'd use that more. Either way, we have what we have, we can work with it. So, these are just the old cushions here, solar panels I have hooked up. I have an extra battery down there. This will have to stay cushions because this is where the bed goes. But like I said, maybe because there was a cabinet that essentially came to here, this could be a larger bed, right? If we don't put that cabinet back up. And You could have the shelf up top. We got lots of room up here. That's where that one shelf was, and there was speakers that weren't working, so I disconnected them all. So this could be a shelf out to where the seat ends, sort of thing. This here, originally when I got the van, actually the tire was here. This is the tire well. I used it for the inverter and for the switch for the solar panels. But I had the tire put on the front of the van when we purchased it. It gives us some extra weight because these things have literally no weight in the front, and raining, anything like that, it gets a little slippery. Outdoor shower maybe. So I was thinking, there could be a little pop-up, maybe a shower head in here. You can get water jugs that sit on top and take the solar heat and warm up the water. We could have an outdoor little kitchen, or sorry, not kitchen, little bathroom back here. That could be cool. I do have screens that actually go on here as well as on the side door. But yeah, we're open to ideas. Those are things that are going through my head. Like I said, I don't have a plan. I'm open to hearing what other people have to say, or if they want to send us some pictures of some ideas that are really cool. We're going to have some fun with this, show off some of the carpentry work that we can do, and show it off at some shows and have some fun this year. If you want to see more of what this van looked like originally, you can see one of our videos from Bus Fusion in 2018, where this is the first time we kind of had it out and meeting other people. We did some tours, but just click on the link and you can see what we had before I decided to rip it apart. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. This is going to be a fun little bonus project that we weren't really planning for, but you can follow this as well as all the other net zero projects that we have coming up.